The league-owned New Orleans Hornets get the number 1 pick. Is it a conspiracy? We discuss on STNTV. STNTV, what's going on? My name is David Brickley, alongside Kevin Figures and Jason Riley. The number 1 overall pick after the draft lottery was held for the NBA goes to the New Orleans Hornets. Now, Tom Benson, the owner of the New Orleans Saints of the National Football League, is going to buy the Hornets, but the sale is not official. So as we talk right now, the NBA owns the Hornets, and they get the number 1 pick. Kevin, let the conspiracy theorists start their magic.
They have to. Funny how that works, that they're going to get the number 1 overall pick for the team that owns the Hornets. Why are you looking at me like that?
Do you hear that? What's going on?
I can't hear anything.
What do you hear? What are you talking about?
What is going on with your voice, man?
Well, see, the NBA knew I was going to come on and rip them for their conspiracy here for trying to get the number 1 pick for their team.
You know what, Jason? I've heard that ever since the Lakers lost, this guy's been on a party bender. I mean, that sounds like
I think that's what it is.
That sounds like a voice of a guy with alcohol and smoke. I mean, he has just been celebrating.
I live straight edge life. I don't do any of that.
And when you love LeBron James as much as Kevin Figures does, I think that there's a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming going on in the Figures household.
I am not a fan of LeBron James or the Miami Heat at all. I grew up a Laker fan my entire life. But getting back to your point of the New Orleans Hornets. Yes, currently league owned. And look, we had the whole controversy last season with the trade for Chris Paul that wasn't to the Lakers. David Stern said it was not. Well, he'll deny it. What we all know is David Stern said this deal was not good enough for the franchise. We want to be set up for the future. Well, how better to set up a franchise for the future than give them the number 1 overall pick with a guy they're comparing to Kevin Garnett?
I'm not going to go all the way there and say this is 100% a conspiracy theory, but I'm going to make this point real quick.
All right.
It's that I bet if you look at any business in America, any big business, small business, there's always that small hint of corruption that goes on. Nobody's straight-laced. Nobody does things 100% by the book, and it would not surprise me in the least, especially with David Stern in the NBA, if that was the case with the NBA.
Well, here's the thing. The NBA has been trying to sell this team for quite some time. The last thing David Stern wanted to do, this is what he says anyway, the last thing the NBA or any major league sport wants to do is be control of a franchise, because this is what starts happening. Every time there's a move made, it's always questioned. They've tried to sell the New Orleans Hornets. They finally do to Tom Benson, who is the owner of the Saints. And you wonder, hey Tom, you already own the Saints. You could control 2 major franchises in your city, and I'll guarantee you the number 1 pick. I'll throw you in Anthony Davis. How about that? Will that seal the deal? I think Tom Benson says, you know what, David, you got yourself a gosh darn deal.
Of course, and he'd be smart he'd be smart to do that. I mean, like I said, Anthony Davis, a guy they're comparing to Kevin Garnett with his upside, and even the downside of that, he's a great defensive player, a great shot blocker, great rebounder, could be a guy you can build your franchise around. So it's a smart move by the New Orleans Hornets or by Tom Benson to want to buy the franchise and keep him there in New Orleans. But again, this has had the same controversy with the New York Knicks back in the day with Patrick Ewing. We've had this before with he reaches in and gets
the only reason I think this is obviously not true, in my opinion, even though it's kind of fun to talk about, is people can't keep secrets. So if David Stern's really pulling strings and puppeteering the entire league and making sure Kyrie Irving goes to Cleveland to, pat them on the back for the LeBron James scandal, this would come out. An assistant would come out. Someone would blackmail David Stern. It would come out, and it would ruin the integrity of the entire game. And nobody will watch it anymore. It's a WWE.
People can't keep secrets forever. But that doesn't mean they can't keep them for a while. You could have guys that know what's going on the inside. They keep that secret for 5 or 10 or even 15 years, and we hear, 15 or 20 years down the line about what was going back on in 2010 or 2012.
Exactly.
So it's not outside the realm of possibility that people could keep this under wraps for the better of the league.
If you're going to do something this big, do you really waste it on the New Orleans Hornets franchise and Anthony Davis? I can understand if Jordan's coming into the league or Patrick Ewing. I can almost understand that.
But if you want to sell,
to sell a franchise,
if you're trying to sell, if you're trying to sell the franchise, and that's in the best interest of the league from a business perspective, which people sometimes need to be reminded, the NBA is a business at first.
Right.
Then it makes a whole lot of sense to do that. It may not. We may look at it and say Anthony Davis might not turn out to be a great player, or this draft might not be the best draft to do that. But for the league to get rid of the New Orleans Hornets, which is something they have to do, this makes total sense.
Well, and it wouldn't surprise me, but I did read a good article on Deadspin, and they said whoever won the lottery, there's a conspiracy theorist out there that could say if Sacramento won the lottery, they just want to keep the Kings in Sacramento. If the Bobcats won the lottery, they just want to throw a bone to Michael Jordan and actually keep the Bobcats in Charlotte, because that's something that may not happen. So every single year this seems to happen,
right?
Unless it goes to Toronto or something.
Exactly. See, that's if you really want to rig the lottery and say we have no agenda, have the Utah Jazz win the lottery. Right. See how that works out. What's your agenda to have Anthony Davis go to the Utah Jazz or the Toronto Raptors? That's the way you want to rig it. But it makes it so obvious now. That
if you really do rig the lottery, like Portland, if you say the lottery was rigged when Portland got the number 1 pick, they get Greg Oden. And that could ruin a franchise as well if you don't pick Kevin Durant, who went number 2 to then Supersonics.
But what makes this different to me is it's the league-owned New Orleans Hornets.
And
you have this. You go way back to the beginning of the season with the Chris Paul deal. That the seed is already there in people's minds.
Right.
And this comes out, and you're like, hold on a second. This is like putting 2 and 2 together. I think.
And you look at it from a marketing perspective. They already have Buzz, the mascot for the Hornets. He already has a unibrow for Anthony Davis. They've already put it on the logo. So, I mean, that's huge for marketing as well.
You waited the whole show for that.
I
know
that.
He did. He had that in his notes before the show.
I was kind of saving that a little bit. But we're going to throw it to you guys. What do you think? Do you think the Hornets landing the number 1 overall pick was a big conspiracy, or was it just a simple coincidence? We want you to comment below. Make sure to like this video. And, of course, subscribe to our channel. For Kevin Figures and Jason Riley, my name is David Brickley.